there, but welcome back into HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson. We were trying to do a JJ Andrews celebration show here, a live reaction to the fact JJ not only won his second consecutive Nike Peach Jam Championship, but also picked up MVP honors this time around. We did about a 5-minute segment and the whole thing went blank. Got plenty of juice on the phone, so I'm not sure what happened there. So we're trying it again. I've started a new live here, so hopefully this one works. I couldn't figure out how to get back in and resume the one that had previously started. So bear with me. Once again, JJ Andrews, 5-star future hog, class of 2026, 6'6" wing at a Little Rock Christian Academy, has led Brad Bill Elite to the program's now second Peach Jam Championship of all time. It's a storied program, all-pro NBA champ Jason Tatum, former Hogs, and some of the top players coming out of the state, guys like Moses, Nick Smith Jr. It's just a proud program. But the first two ever Nike Peach Jam Championships, and JJ Andrews is the biggest driving force when you add it all up in both of those title runs. Today, a 75-55 win over the New York Wrens. It was close for a while, really, and then Brad Bill Elite started to pull away. And once again, it was a big second half for JJ Andrews. But let's talk about what he's done now as a two-time, again, Peach champion. 16U last year, arguably the best player for that team. The MVP honors went to Mika Miernan, who was really, really good too. I mean, it was probably a 1A type of deal. But Andrews was big down the stretch last year, made big plays down the stretch of a really close game at the end, tie game in the 16U title game. JJ helps make some hustle plays, some things that led to a 7-0 run to finish that game. Brad Bill Elite gets the program's first ever Peach Jam title, and this came at the 16U level. Fast forward to this year, was a little more comfortable at the end as Brad Bill Elite pulled away, but a lot of that had to do with JJ Andrews. 2 points at halftime, 18 in the second half. You go back to a couple of days ago before you got into championship bracket play, 24 points, 10 rebounds, again, a double-double against the nation's #1 player in Tyron Stokes, a big fella on the wing in his own right. And JJ, 18 points in that second half. If you go back to a nail-biting 1-point win last night in the semifinals against Team Why Not, JJ Andrews, 4 points in the first half, finished with 16, so 12 in the second half, including the game tying, and then game-winning free throw after the game tying free throw with 20 seconds left. There's no other way that you can spell MVP without JJ Andrews in the mix there. There's just nobody else that dominated like he did. And you start going back to what he did in the spring and May in the 3 EYBL sessions, then some of the stuff he did pushing into June with his big performances in BPA Top 100 camp, his team camp stuff in front of Calipari in Kansas City. We covered all of that. And then these last two live eval weekends, when you got into finishing Nike EYBL session 4 and moving into the Peach Jam, the championship, it ended up being 12 games in 11 days for JJ and an undermanned Brad Bill Elite team. Really good players, but they're shorthanded due to injuries. Playing 6, sometimes 7 guys. And JJ today, all 32 minutes. Well, let's look at him statistically. 2 points at halftime. He was 0 of 3 from the field. He finishes with 20 points, 7 of 13 from the field. So he was better than 50% shooting. Made all of his free throws, which was key, especially in a game that was tight for a while, a little bit back and forth. 6 rebounds, a couple of assists, 1 steal. Again, played all 32 minutes, had a box score plus 20. And this is just what he does. Again, a 20-point win, an 18-point second half, and that's when the game started to turn. A timeout called at the third quarter, and they went isolation and got the ball to JJ in the short corner, and he just dipped his head in, got to the basket, got a little off balance, but still finished a layup. And I think he extended Brad Bill Elite from a 4-point lead to a 6-point lead at that point. And they continued to add to it, and they continued to go to JJ. Now, JJ's done what he always does to get his and to be a great player. Great teammate, lets the game come to him. That's probably why you see some of these slow first halves. He's not taking a lot of shots, and he's not hunting shots. He's making the right plays and doing everything else to help his team flourish. But it always comes down to him offensively when you look at him, and I call it now a slash, clash, and cash game. And that's what he was superior again once today, once he got that going. And really, that all started happening in this third quarter. through the fourth quarter because again, I don't think he had a field goal. I think his 2 points at halftime were two free throws, and again, he was perfect at the line today after being a little shaky in that semifinal matchup. Even though he made those last two, but prior to that, he was 4 of 9 in that game. So when you add those two to win a game, and then the 6 of 6 today, he finished the right way at the free throw line. But this is a 4-time champion when you add in what J.J. Andrews has done at the high school level. We talked about it yesterday when we came on. He had a 2-time Nike Peach Jam, so a national title. When you look at it from the standpoint of spring and summer grassroots, Nike is the creme de la creme of the circuits. And now you've done it 2 years in a row, and he had back-to-back high school state titles, the 4A level as a freshman starter, key contributor, and then as a sophomore at Little Rock Christian Academy when he won MVP of the state title game in his sophomore season in 4A. Last year, he made the state tournament after Little Rock Christian moved up to 5A, but they didn't win a title. But this is what this guy does. You go back again, he'll be incoming high school senior. He's not even going on to college yet, and he's already got 4 titles. And so he's in a special category. I mean, you've had great players come through the state, guys 5 stars, guys ranked top 10. Nick Smith Jr. just 2 or 3 years ago ranked number 1 in the class according to 247 Sports when the dust settled, and again got Bradville Elite to the title game along with Brandon Miller. They didn't win it, but Nick was superb in that Nike Peach Jam run. But I look at what J.J. Andrews did. I mean, we talked about the double-double against the number 1 player in the country, and then effectively you slide into the championship bracket, quarterfinals, semifinals, and championship game. And in those 3 games, JJ, 20.3 points per game, 5.3 rebounds per game, 2.7 assists per game, 54.3% shooting. And even though he had his struggles at the free throw line in the semifinals, when you add it all up, he was 21 of 30 at the line in these last 3 games, quarters, semis, and finals. That's an average of 10 free throw attempts per game. This is part of why teams were coveting him so much and why, in my opinion, he's partly elevated himself beyond just being a surefire 5-star, which we've said for months. We've never wavered on that. Shame on everybody else that didn't have him there, the folks that do the national recruiting rankings. They're starting to come around, but let's see all 3 of them come full circle. And then we got to the point, well, this guy's a top 10 player. He's not just a, 10 to 20 range type of 5-star. He's a top 10 guy. And now I'm at the point where he's top 5. But that 21 of 30 at the foul line ends up 70% at the free throw line, and that's kind of a little north of 70 when you look at the totality of Nike EYBL play. The only thing missing from his game in Peach Jam in this past week, I guess, again, 11 days. You had 12 games in 11 days, and you had down to 6 or 7 players, was, he's kept his 3-point shooting at low volume, but good efficiency. Over 50% or around 50% when he looked at most of May, and then, it kind of tapered down. It was around still a very respectable 40% when you finished up session 4 last week, hovering around 40% on low volume, but still you like to see that improvement. And part of it's fatigue, but part of it is just him understanding what his strengths are. You're just not taking a whole lot of threes. He didn't attempt a 3 today. He did take 3 mid-range shots. One was an air ball. A couple of them were offline. And these are things where he's really improved. And I'm going to chalk it up to just, gutting out games and making sure that he's playing to his strengths, which are driving, crossover dribbles, breaking it down from the wing, getting to his driving angles, taking on contact, finishing through contact. He's not a high above the rim finisher. Now, he can get up and dunk it, but he's a guy that just kind of wills his way and uses that strength his frame, big shoulders, broad, big arms, and some quickness around the basket to get it done. And, if that's what's working for you, because when you're not getting the basket, you're getting the free throw line. Again, 10 free throw attempts on average per game in this championship run. And I'll say this, he could have shot more free throws today. I thought maybe he should have had a couple of one opportunities on some really tough challenge baskets around the hoop there, right in front of the rim. I thought maybe he took on some contact and they let it go. Whatever, that's fine. But he could have maybe shot a few more free throws today. But again, this is just an impeccable performance. A 2-time Nike Peach Jam champion. now, and now a two-time MVP because you throw in the two state titles and his MVP in the last of those that he got. It's just this has not been quite a resume with so many great players that come out of the state at this stage of a player's career, like you're seeing with J.J. Andrews. It's not to say that he's better than guys that came before him, but he's been fortunate enough to be a huge impact on driving a winning cause and finishing in the winner's circle when the dust settles. Because what are you playing for? You're playing to get better, but you're playing to win, and you're playing to win titles. And if you remember on his commitment announcement date on May 15th here in the 501, I got an immediate quick interview with him right after that. And I asked him, what's next? What's next? And he looked at me and, when he becomes a Hog, and he said, we're going to win the Natty. This is about winning the Natty. And so interviewed today at the end of the Peach Jam game after he was named MVP, got an interview. This was televised live on NBA TV, not just a live stream. This is on the broadcast network. And he was asked, sum up what J.J. Andrews, what you want people to remember about J.J. Andrews in these opportunities, because now his grassroots career is over. He won't do this again. He just has a high school season left before he becomes a Razorback. And he says that J.J. Andrews is a winner. I'm a winner. And nothing else sums it up. We've talked about him for years. When we've talked about him, and the first thing I've always said about him, he's not like a lot of five stars where you're looking at flash and guys making it about showcasing what they can do. He showcases how he helps you win, and he's always making the right play at the right time. And there are times you're thinking he's really quiet and what's going on there, because he's not going to force anything. He lets the game come to him. And then he's forceful when he flips that switch and gets his motor going to the basket with the ball. And again, impacting winning plays, whether it's defensive rebound and throwing over transition defense for an easy score for a teammate, or a pass where he flips, the strong side to the weak side, a skip pass, beating defenders, makes it where no defender can recover for an open teammate for a three. He makes the right play all the time. You see guys get out in transition. They got a 3-on-2 opportunity. Two teammates are ahead of them, and they selfishly try to get to the basket to get some points, and they don't make the easier play. JJ doesn't do that. He gets off the ball and passes ahead. He makes the right play every time, where he likely would have success on his own if he just wanted to cruise in and try to finish on his own. He doesn't see himself as what matters. He sees winning as what matters. And we don't want to over dramatize this. Just look at the resume now. The guy proves it over and over again. I came out with my top 10 rankings yesterday, and then I expanded it to top 25. I did that in between the quarterfinals and semifinals games. And I've moved JJ up. I've got him fourth in the country. I've got him behind Tyron Stokes, Jordan Smith Jr., and Caleb Holt. I've got him the fourth ranked player. You could make a case just based on results that he's got an argument as the number one player in the country. I wouldn't, if someone made that comment, I wouldn't laugh in jest or consider that a joke. But at the same time, my rankings are what they are. I stand by them for now. I've got JJ number 4. And that's, I think that's something he's earned. I don't think it's something I gave him. I get to attend these events and, over the years and see these players grow, develop, and familiar with most all of them. And when you look at rankings, I've seen most of those players multiple times in person, let alone the live stream stuff. So I don't just willy-nilly put something like that together. I really kind of think about what I've seen and what I've seen when they match up and what the results are. And then, do they produce? If you're a guy that's, sort of more of a role player and you're part of winning titles, there's value in that. But JJ is a star in the pursuit of winning titles. So you factor all that in. I just don't see that he's not a top 5 player in that class of 2026. And I really think about him. I think the best comparison in state for him, when I look at it historically, is actually Corliss Williamson, because Corliss was an undersized 4 when you think of height. He was powerfully built. J.J. Andrews is powerfully built, not undersized for a wing, but a lot of what his game is right now is getting it around the basket. And so they're taller dudes, maybe more athletic dudes, longer players. He's got plenty of good arm length and size for a wing. But he and Corliss, just the angles they understand how to get to finish, I think there's similarities there. The fact that both of them are probably, there's as much blue collar as there is talent. And I think working hard, being a determined player, doing whatever it takes to win, I think that's a skill. You hear that all the time. We talk about what players can't do. Well, they can't handle, and they can't shoot, or they don't have a shot creation game, and this and that. But guys like Corliss and JJ played to their strengths. Corliss always going from a 4 in college to the pro level was going to be a power 3-4. He was going to have to learn to shoot a little bit better from the mid range, put the ball on the deck, stuff he didn't have to do a whole lot in college. And with JJ, he continues to add to his skill set. But, if you want to call him a power wing, I heard him refer to that on one of the broadcasts. That's maybe a fair assessment right now. He has improved the jump shot, the skill craft, getting into some mid-range stuff. I mentioned yesterday, maybe part of his development on some of these drives, if he doesn't get the cleanest angle, use his pivot foot in a pump fake. Move guys around. They're already concerned about you finishing. And if they feel like they've got a good angle on you and you don't have a good angle to finish, make them think a little bit, move them around a little bit in a tight space, and you can maybe get a clear look. Things he can continue to work on and add. Sometimes if his drive's cut off, they said today, one of the comments was, continue to work and add counters. Well, he has added counters. We didn't see as much of that these last few games. I think we saw less of it because I think he was leaning on the strength of his game and then deferring getting off the ball instead of working on some of his counter stuff at this stage. I think he realized he saw the prize in front of him, and it wasn't about showing off what he can do right now. It's more or less play to the strengths for now, continue to work on those things. That's why I've lauded and said multiple times as we've gone through the spring, I like it that JJ, even though he's an improved percentage guy from 3, isn't taking a ton. He understands what the wheelhouse is. He understands what the assignment is. You add those things, that's going to be important for him as he continues to develop and expect to continue his career on a path, hopefully, to the NBA. But you don't have to go out there and go nuts with it. And that's one of the best things about him, playing within himself, playing within his strengths, and then maximizing them. And then when you get in championship minutes, this is where the comparison with Corliss is as well. There were times where Corliss took games over, especially late, down the stretch when games were tight, and then all of a sudden it wasn't, and you're looking at your All-American. JJ has those qualities. So there are some similarities. In-state guys, again, you're looking at powerfully built dudes in the 6'6" to 6'7" range, different positionally. That was a different era. But man, Corliss is one of those guys that when you looked at him physically and you looked at his impact on winning and how he would just accumulate stats, again, nothing flashy, just big time performances against some of the best players he'd go head to head against. So every time he stepped on the court, the more he showed that, the more it's almost like you're looking at that going, well, that's our superpower. That's our dude with a cape. Other guys might score more than him in this game. Other guys might show depth of shot or shot creation. You might see this. At the end of the day, who's the guy that's going to carry me over the finish line? And I think JJ has a lot of qualities like Corliss had. I looked at a Sidney Moncrief back in the day, the triplets, very similar, just a machine. Not a guy out there doing stuff like Magic and Larry Bird. Doesn't put together a highlight reel like that, but an all-pro nonetheless, one of the best guards to ever do it, one of the arguably the best backcourt defender ever. It's probably Michael Jordan and Sidney Moncrief, 1 and 1A in some combination. I'll give a nod to Moncrief there, but guys like that have come through the state that play the right way. They don't make it about them. They make it about winning. I know I'm on a soapbox here. That's J.J. Andrews. We went through him statistically in these quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals look at it. Just, there are stretches of games where you say, well, that's not his best game. He's off to a slow start. It's how you finish, man. And it's not like he's getting stats at garbage time. I mean, he's the one that's creating garbage time if there is anything like that because of the big production he had in second halves. Now I'm going to go back to it. I think I've given you what my rankings are. I've said, over and over again, this guy, I don't see how you not only make sure you slot him as a 5-star, he's made the case as at minimum a top 10 guy. We'll see what the services do as they continue to move forward and recalibrate and redo their rankings. We should see a lot of that here in the coming days and weeks. And again, we go back to the physicality, the strength, good athleticism. Back in the day, they used to call Jason Kidd just because of how hard he played. He was in Corliss's class, right? Class of 92. class of 91. Was it 90? No, 92, 93 was his freshman season. Yeah, so the class of 92, Jason Kidd was the number one player in that class. Corliss ranked top three. Othello Harrington, he went to Georgetown, Arkansas, thought they were going to get him. Nolan Richardson was also in that top three mix. But Jason Kidd, they used to call him Robo Guard, just strong, 6'4", could do everything. Wasn't a flashy scorer or shooter. A guy that could give you 10 to 20 points just on sheer will, but he could pass, he could defend, he could rebound, big rebounder. Just did a little bit of everything, and impacted the kind of qualities you need in a player who's not just a star, but they're a star in how they help you make others around them better. Guy ends up being he's a Hall of Famer, Naismith Hall of Fame guy, won an NBA title, one of the top coaches in the NBA now, Jason Kidd. In some ways, I look at J.J. Andrews and I see that robo, we'll call him the robo again, slash, clash, and cash guy. The bully ball, the further you go up, you do need to add more to that. And he has, again, improved in some areas. He'll continue to do that. Just because we didn't see some of the other stuff pop the last few days, I'm not concerned about that. What I know is he impacts winning. And I look at him in that robo, if you're throwing that robo thing around, that's kind of J.J. Andrews. I mean, he just keeps coming. He keeps putting pressure on you. He keeps doing the right things at both ends. And he just doesn't stop doing that. It's not like you look at it and go, wow, he played right for half the game. The other half, he was really selfish. He's just consistently great that way. That's why I say he's body ready. He's mental ready. He's emotionally ready. He's not flappable. He's going to be, it's not that he's not going to have challenges at the college level. It's not that he's going to be perfect, but I think he comes in as one of those day one guys that's hard to take off the court, injected into the starting lineup. We'll see about Carter Knox and Billy Richmond III seasons if either one of those guys is still around. But whether JJ, if one or both of those guys are back, maybe JJ doesn't start every game, but he's going to have starter value and get his share of playing time and will impact what could be one of Calipari's best teams. Let's see what happens with recruiting, retention, but he's off to a great start with JJ Andrews. Remember, the first 5-star off the board and committed to anybody. Calipari's had back-to-back seasons, recruiting cycles now, where that's been the case. Darius Haycuff Jr. last year. J.J. Andrews, the first off the board around the country this year, and it's a great centerpiece to build around. I can remember, and I'm going to wrap up with this. I remember when the staff was still new here, and they reached out to me and asked me about J.J., and a couple of things I said. I said two things. I said, I know the kind of guys y'all recruit and some of the higher level guys. I said, don't worry about where his rankings land. I said two things. I said, he's going to help you win games. He's going to absolutely help you win games. And I said, the other thing was, I think you need to make him feel as much of a priority as anybody you go after in this class. Those are the two things that I weighed in on when I asked. I was asked multiple times in the process of his recruitment, how do you think it's going? Where do you think, that kind of thing. And I felt good about it. I felt really good about it until the last minute when Missouri, I heard they were up that NIL, and that's always going to throw a wrinkle into things, right? If that's, if something like that happens and Missouri recruited him hard, it was in the Final Three, there was a bit of nervousness there in the final hour. And then the final day before the commitment announcement, when I learned that Calipari just turned the lights out on everybody else in pursuit in the last 3 weeks of that recruitment, I felt like, moving into the next day when we went to Memphis, JJ had already had success in the first session, which was not live eval and back in Arizona, I think a few weeks before that. I felt confident that Calipari and that staff, whatever they saw in JJ, they're going to see even more and more of that winning formula that they got to have, that they just got to have. And at that point, there was no convincing that staff. They saw it. They knew it. And it just snowballed from there. It has just snowballed from there. I couldn't be more proud. I'm proud of all the in-state guys. I say all the time, most of them play the right way. Just about all of them do. And they don't make it about themselves. And he's the next one. But there's this championship DNA in this guy. And you hope Arkansas is able to ride that. As once again, we live vicariously for now through J.J. Andrews, 5-star future Hog. We live vicariously through his title runs. We'll see what this next Arkansas team can do without him. Hopefully there's a shot at getting to that final weekend. And then you want to continue to build if you're John Calipari. And you've got a great start in the class of 2026 for year 3 in the program. And Jashawn J.J. Andrews, Little Rock native, and now a 4-time champion, 2-time MVP. Congrats to JJ. Fantastic player. All right, I'll be back on tomorrow. We're going to come back on and really go through. I'm going to kind of sweep back through some of Arkansas's top recruiting priorities to add to JJ Andrews in the 2026 class. We're going to go back through some intel, maybe bring some more information, remind you of visit dates, maybe some names off the radar that we can look at and see if the staff might kick the tires on. I know Calipari was courtside for other guys this weekend at times. And so we'll just maybe come up with some names that we think they might have some level of interest in. But until next time, and that again will be sometime tomorrow, maybe really early, we'll see. But until then, thanks for being here. Appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you soon.